You never got a choice. So it makes it hard. Yeah. No, well, that's the thing that people, I always have to tell them. That's big. So don't think that- Well, that's not purpose too long, because if he makes changes at the last minute, it's them really is not some sort of that's why I have a place. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone online hear me okay? Yes? Okay, great. So welcome back, or for some of you, welcome. This is our final meeting of the summer session. We are going to, yeah, I know. Wrap everything up. We prepared a nice presentation for you, hopefully to make, I know we discussed a lot of things within the last few weeks. There was a lot of changes, so we prepared a nice presentation for you all, just to kind of streamline the process and make it a little bit easier to follow, because we're discussing a lot of information, right? So let's go ahead and first things first, has everyone signed in using the sign-in link or the QR code on the agenda that was passed out to you? Doing it now? Okay. So if you are a voting member, you should have been prompted to hit a link. And then it's going to take you to a poll, and then you put in your name, right? Did everyone get to that part okay? For those of you online, if you weren't able to navigate to that part, just drop a comment in the chat, so that way we could help you get there. Okay? Okay, so for those of you online as well as in here in the room, let's go ahead and, is everyone logged into their laptop? Yes? If you haven't already, go ahead and pull up your Chrome browser, navigate to dallascountyvotes.org. There is a icon. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the chat too. There is a icon that says committee meeting. You're going to click on that icon. It should automatically open up the header, Vote Center Advisory Committee. Does everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, then there's our application, our map application that we will be using or referencing tonight. We also have a spreadsheet that's available. Again, if you're not able to access that spreadsheet, feel free to let us know or drop a comment in the chat. And then we also have our member list in the event that you need to verify if you're a member. Then that's it for now. In a few moments, we will pass out a handout to you all to follow along with. And then for those of you online, we'll provide you with a link to follow along with as well. That will make this process a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and bring up the presentation.
Yes.
But were others able to bring up the spreadsheet? I am not able to do that.
You're not, Ms. Sullivan? Okay. I'll email it to you like we did last week. Okay. Could be logged in for Lonnie's link.
Can you send it to me, please?
Yes, Ms. Lincoln?
Can you send it to me as well?
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Does anyone else need the spreadsheet?
I do.
Okay, thank you. No problem. Okay, so again, welcome again. Let's go ahead and look at the agenda, Petra. So on tonight's agenda, we are going to do a city-by-city discussion, analysis, and tentative approval of early voting sites, low turnout models, and high turnout models. Okay, so As some of you guys know, we do have Shanae, the City Secretary of Irving, online. She is with us for a limited amount of time because she is on vacation. So we are going to address it city by city to allow Irving the opportunity to kind of go first. That way Shanae is able to review the location in Irving, and then we'll move on from there, okay? So after we review locations city by city, go back for me, Patrick. Okay. We're going to take an official vote on the countywide plans. We'll go through early voting, low turnout models, and then high turnout model. And this is where your polling application that you should be logged into if you're a voting member, that's where that's going to come into place. Okay, and then after that, we'll review next steps. Okay, so just before we begin, just to speak to some of the committee members who have not been able to attend every meeting because we have had a lot of meetings, right? We're just going to go over some background information for why we're discussing early voting sites, low turnout model, what that is, and speak to what the high turnout model is, just for clarification. So currently there are 47 early voting sites. The early voting sites were appointed by court commissioners, or I'm sorry, county commissioners. And historically, this body or this committee has never reviewed those sites. So the challenges that arise because of that is that early voting turnout, it requires an increase in early voting sites. And because those sites have never been previously assessed, we're not able to kind of modify our voting sites, with this increase. We're also having a lot of growth in Dallas County. So our early vote sites have not reflected that. Also, every election, our jurisdictions, they are having to add on additional early voting sites just to accommodate that growth and accommodate their needs. So that's why we made the recommendation to try to modify the standard early voting sites to better reflect and meet the needs of local jurisdictions and the public. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so what we have been doing in our meetings, we propose some solutions.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
On the, so, or is that what you're talking about? We are talking about early voting. Right?
Yes, we're just giving some background, speaking to why we brought up the discussion of early voting sites
Oh, okay.
so far. Okay, so we propose a solution to at least aim to have at least one early voting site in every city in Dallas County. And the way we did this is we identified our existing early voting sites in every city. And then using our GIS map, we use our 2.5-mile radius buffers to identify gaps and see where we could basically provide more coverage. And we also use our high density filter, which showed us where our voters are or where our registered voters are, so we can better make those decisions. Okay, we also have the low turnout model. That is something that we voted on previously. There are a total of 369 election day vote centers that were previously approved by Commissioner Court to be used in this low turnout model. So we recently came across some challenges as some of the low turnout model vote centers, they're now under construction or they're permanently unavailable. So we wanted to present those to you guys this evening, so that way you're aware of which vote centers are affected by that. And then from there, we can kind of address them as needed if there's anything further to discuss. Okay, and then lastly, just for more background, what we have been focused on in our most recent meetings is the high turnout model. So there are a total of 370 vote centers that are, again, approved in the low turnout model. 88 are tentative.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I would like to clarify. So the 370 would be with the revisions that we're going to be proposing tonight.
Oh, thanks for clarifying that. No, it's okay. Did everyone hear that? So the 370 includes the revision that will be proposed tonight. Okay, so 88 are tentatively approved high turnout model vote centers. Within that, you have your modifications within the tentatively approved vote center list. And then we'll go over an overview of not selected high turnout vote centers, just to refresh everyone on which vote centers we did not select for this model. There's a total of 55. Okay. So now I'm going to pass it over to our voting sites coordinator, Danielle. She's going to speak about city by city, proposed early voting sites, low turnout vote centers, and then high turnout models per every city.
Do we have this presentation?
It's going to be, we don't have a printout. Let me print one out for you.
Post on the site.
Post it online. Yeah, that's fine. We can definitely do that. No problem. You ready, Danielle?
Can I actually add one more thing?
Yeah.
So just to clarify, so as the screen shows, we're gonna be moving from early voting sites to the low turnout model to the high turnout model. That is because early voting sites are automatically an election day site, and our low turnout model will automatically be applied to the high turnout model. All of this is for consistencies with our voters.
So everything on the low turnout model list is also on the high turnout model.
That's something I forgot.
Okay.
So if something is green, 'cause when I was reviewing, I was confused, and maybe you're gonna go over that. 'Cause I did get a call from one of our commissioners who wants to make sure that a particular location that is new is on the early voting as well as the election day. But and so I was looking at the spreadsheet and I can't understand it.
What city is that vote center in?
It's the mosque in Richardson,
Okay. We'll work city by city.
Yeah, he said it was very, very successful for him.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
work city by city and detail.
But I just didn't want to, I wasn't understanding the colors.
Okay, we'll clarify as we're going through.
All right, good evening, everyone. So, we just mentioned, we'll first start with early. Irving early voting. So, Irving early voting, they have 4 existing locations. And the city has made a request to add Irving Arts Center as an additional early voting location. So,
Yeah, I thought we
Mhm.
were gonna, Michael, when we talked last, I thought your thoughts were that we had a really good turnout at Arts Center, and we usually do, and that y'all were gonna add it as well to the large vote centers location. Did I misunderstand that?
Right.
No, she's just jumping in, just a couple seconds.
Sorry,
ahead.
say that again?
A couple of seconds ahead, she's just, those words are about to come out of her.
So I'm starting with what was existing.
She's
Okay.
talking about right now is there's 4 existing currently, now she's about to say what we're about to change to. Okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so that would bring Irving with a total of 5 early voting centers in their area. Have any comments?
So just go ahead, just to make sure that we're clear, what she's gonna toggle on and off what was, what as is, and what to be. So you see there's one added, toggles there's the new one that's being added. Want you to talk about that location? Fine.
Urban Arts Center was requested by the city. And it's been used previously.
So the community is aware of it and does go regularly vote there.
Correct.
In this last May election, we had 1,300 people vote at the Irving Arts Center, so we do know that the community likes it.
Need a motion to add that location or?
I think what we're probably gonna do, Bonnie, in interest of time.
Yeah.
I think when it comes, because each city, we're gonna do this for, 3 times.
Right.
Early vote, low turnout, high turnout. I think rather than take an official vote, we're just gonna look for if there's any discussion or any objections. And if not, we'll just kind of move on, because at the end, we're gonna take a final vote on the whole thing.
Got it.
So having said that, Sheila, or I'm sorry,
So I'll be moving forward with the low turnout model.
okay,
So the low turnout model for Irving.
but to make sure we give everyone a chance, they won't have any discussion about the addition of that location, any concerns? Are we good to go with that? Everyone in agreement with the city secretary that we would like to add that location? Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so moving forward, we'll go with the low turnout model. Okay, so for the low turnout model, Irving currently has 24 locations. They have made a request and are proposing for La Valita Elementary to be added to the low turnout model. So that would bring a total of 25 sites.
As we are following along on the map, the site are the proposed pink dots.
No, ma'am. You have to turn on the proposed LTM filter.
Thank you.
And so the site that Irving asked to add is La Villita, which is this green dot here in the top right corner of Irving. It kind of fills the gap.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really had no place for District 5 to vote. There's a big gap between 114 and that area. It's a very, very dense area with a lot of people. And the District 5 candidates were, and I understand, understandably so, very upset because they did not have anything up top in the further eastern corner. So we're trying to fill a gap essentially.
Thank you for the feedback, Shannon. Don't have any comments.
That would be the only change to the low turnout model in Irving. Do y'all feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Also, just to interject really quickly, the presentation is now available online if you want to follow along. I'm emailing you to now.
So what I have displayed on the map right now is the low turnout model. Now that we've discussed that, I'm going to turn on the high turnout model. And those are the added locations that we would see under the high turnout model. So let Danielle speak to that.
Okay. So the high turnout model consists of the approved low turnout model locations along with the additional tentatively approved, which were discussed and approved in the VCAC meeting. So these are the locations that you all approved. There are no changes to any of the locations. That would bring a running total to 38 locations for election day in Irving. Anyone have any comments, questions about that?
Can you make that statement one more time? How many?
38.
That was from how many in the low turnout model? From 20 to 25 to 38, so adding 13.
Thank you.
Now that we've concluded talking about the high turnout model in Irving, are there any remaining comments y'all would like to make about Irving before we move on to the next city?
Great. So Sinead,
Yes.
that's all we've got to discuss with Irving. So you're free to get back to that pina colada or whatever you got.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Jennifer Phillips, my deputy city secretary, is going to stay on if y'all have any questions. She has been briefed on all of this and is a wealth of knowledge. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sinead.
you. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, the next city we're gonna move forward to is Grand Prairie.
You said there's a way we can see that screen on our computer, because I can't see that far away.
The map.
Yeah.
Are you in the meeting now?
I was trying to get into the meeting, but I can't see the.
Can someone help her get into the Teams meeting? And then, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just looking right now.
That's what I usually do, and I don't know why I don't see it this time.
Oh, give me. Oh, it's going to come out.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, so we're starting with Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie, has a total, their existing location for early voting, the total of 2. So that would be Crosswinds High School and Our Redeemer Lutheran Church, Grand Prairie. We are proposing
I can't find the actual meeting invite.
2 additional locations, so that would bring the running total for early voting in Grand Prairie to 4. So the 2 locations is the Summit. The Summit would provide coverage, even the central area of Grand Prairie. And then Betty Warmack has been utilized sporadically throughout the elections, and that would be a permanent location now going forward.
Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding Grand Prairie? Did everyone hear Danielle? Okay, I know it's a little bit muffled right now.
This is Debbie Torres with the Grand Prairie School District. You said, what are the other 2 early voting you were saying that we were gonna add?
The Summit and Betty Warmack Library.
I'm sorry, your mic cut out. I heard Betty Warmack, but I didn't hear the other.
The Summit and.
Oh, okay.
Usually.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it just lets me log in.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Any other?
Okay, and you,
Okay, I'm gonna move forward to the low turnout model for Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie has a total of 15 sites. For the low turnout model, there will be no changes. So those locations will transition over to the high turnout model. Okay, so moving forward, the high turnout model. So with Grand Prairie, the high turnout model, they have 20 sites. Okay, so we're proposing 2 additional sites.
What are those sites?
Okay, so just to clarify, one of the sites that, that's existing for the high turnout model is going to be replaced with Ministerial Celio. It's going to be replaced with Rocky Springs Missionary Baptist Church. The reason for the replacement is because the location is not an ADA compliant. And I believe that the Rocky Springs Missionary is for either it's a 98 or 99%.
Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding those locations? Those centers?
Hi, this is Mona Lisa with the City of Grand Prairie. do you mind going back and showing me the low turnout locations one more time and turn off the high turnout for a moment?
Yeah, that's fine. So Petra, turn off the high turnout, right? Yep. Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
also interested in seeing the low turnout. Did you need us to locate any of those vote centers, Mona Lisa?
No, I just wanted to make sure that I could see the summit on that one.
Okay.
You can turn the high turnout back on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Is everyone following along okay?
You can turn on that. I thought I saw more than two being added.
Yes, there were the two that were added from early vote. Yes. So the summit was automatically added because it was an early voting location. It will be an election day location of the low turnout model. Another one that was added was was it Rocky Springs? Rocky Springs Missionary Baptist Church. And there was the third one. We're just trying to pull it up right now.
It was the Woods United Methodist Church, maybe?
Thank you. Yes, it was the Woods United Methodist Church.
In the Rocky Springs, that is just as a replacement for the ministerials.
Yes, correct. And that's on the far north end of town.
Yes, so 2 additions, 1 replacement.
Okay. Are you ready to move on?
Looks good to me.
Hey, what are we doing?
I have to move on to the next city. Give me just a moment, I'm getting my strings together.
City will be Cedar Hill.
Thank you. So we're just going to allow Danielle one moment to coordinate her screens, but we are going to be discussing Cedar Hill next. Do we have a representative from Cedar Hill online? No? Anyone familiar with the area? Dr. Levels? Okay. I was looking at you the whole time because I know you are. So once we navigate to Cedar Hill, we'll discuss the early voting sites first, continuing in the same format. So early votings, then we'll move on to low turnout and then high turnout, just as we've done with the previous cities.
Recommendation, Cedar Hill.
Here we go.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the early voting for Cedar Hill. The existing location, which we've had used throughout the elections, is 8 East End Cedar Hill Rec Center. And so we're proposing that that location is a permanent location, which will stand for all of the elections. And that's the only update for the early voting in Cedar Hill. No other changes.
So, sorry, that's not an update. It's an update to the name. When it was finalized by Commissioners Court, it was called the Cedar Hill Recreation Center. It's now called the AE Sim Cedar Hill Recreation Center. We're just updating the name on our early voting list.
Cedar Hill
Alex.
High School is not.
Excuse me?
Cedar Hill Collegiate High School is not an early voting site.
No, it is not.
Did you get that clarification? It's not A.E. Sims, Alan Sims.
Oh, Alan needs that.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, so now we should be discussing the low turnout model, but before we move on, anyone have any additional comments for early voting, Cedar Hill?
Okay, so with the low turnout model, there will be no changes. We have a total of 7 locations that will transition over to the high turnout model for Cedar Hill.
No changes since March. All good.
Okay,
And moving forward with the election day, there is one location we would need to review. This is the New Apostolic Youth PC Church. And Petra has it up on the map. This location was, found by the voting rights department. This will potentially provide coverage for a needed location in this area as it is newly developed.
So I'll turn on what we have tentatively approved already, and then you see down there at the bottom in an empty zone is that New Apostolic, that the voting sites being found. How do y'all feel about adding the New Apostolic? They scored 100 on our survey.
I think it fills a hole.
It was to fill a hole, that is correct.
It was a big hole.
A good point.
Yes.
Okay, so does that wrap up Cedar Hill? So I'll just confirm, what
And so the recommendation from the church is for high turnout election day, or is it early voting and election day?
the recommendation for the church. Oh, just for election day,
It's for election day.
yes.
Okay.
So Cedar Hill went from how many in the low turnout model to how many in the high turnout? How many did we add for the high turnout model?
So that would bring a total of 10 locations for the high turnout model.
How many in the low turnout model?
7. There are 3 additional. Yes. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, so we'll move on to our next city. Okay, we'll move on to Duncanville.
Cedar Hill approved.
Cedar Hills approved. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to speak about Duncanville, starting with the early vote sites. Okay, so Duncanville has a location, again, I believe that this is a situation where it was not, considered a permanent location, but it's been utilized, Duncanville Library. So the only thing that we are proposing is that it will now be considered a permanent early voting site. And as well as, it will be utilized for election day.
So that would not be a change to what has been taking place for the last many years. Duncanville will be the only early voting site in Duncanville, or the Duncanville Library will be the only early voting site.
So this really speaks to how we were discussing jurisdictions have to kind of flex up every election in order to accommodate the growth. So do we have any comments about this site?
The city of Duncanville, have they provided any feedback?
Duncanville? No, they have not.
That's odd that you would only have one early voting center in Duncanville. That's odd to me.
Any other?
Is Janie on the call from Duncanville, the secretary?
I don't believe so. Didn't receive a response.
So the Duncanville Library is the only location for early voting in Duncanville.
That's what you just said.
And that's
How-
always-
How close is something in Lancaster or Cedar Hill?
There's one right there in Southwest Dallas, like Redbird Airport, not too far, right there on the 20. And there's another one far west. That's that. Probably, in Dallas.
It's not very close.
No, it's not very close at all. So there's only one in Cedar Hill, one in Duncanville, and one in DeSoto. Is that what I'm looking at? Is that?
We haven't
Okay,
made it to
that's correct.
DeSoto, but I bet you're right. That's gonna be the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and last meeting we did speak about DeSoto because we proposed adding an additional vote center. And the decision was made not to do that,
Oh.
not to do so.
I think it was the location.
Yeah, it may have been.
It wasn't about not adding, it was about
It may
adding
have been.
that specific location.
Location.
That was the decision.
And I think that's our next city.
And now we're gonna have. a
We can
problem.
move forward. I just want to note it that they only have one in each of those cities.
Was,
So let's go ahead and move on to the low turnout model for Duncanville.
Gonna be a challenge.
Okay, so with the low turnout model, there were 4 locations for Duncanville. And those locations will transfer over to election day, high turnout model. There will not be any changes for the low turnout model. So that's just providing, an update.
So none of the vote centers were affected in the low turnout model for Duncanville. Did anyone have any feedback or comments? Pretty easy. Let's go on to the high turnout model.
Okay, so before we begin the high turnout model, there's one location we would like to review. This location is the Alexander Elementary. We believe it may have been updated, the status as not selected for the high turnout model. So we just want to go back and clarify to make sure we have the statuses up to date. So from what we've gathered, Brandenburg was selected over,
Alexander.
The other way around.
oh, it's the other way around. Sorry. Okay, so we have the wrong status for the Brandenburg. Brandenburg,
Alexander.
Alexander Elementary School.
Brandenburg was accepted over Alexander, so Brandenburg,
Both of them were rejected on the 727 map, when we looked at it, and they both showed red. And then, we went back and reviewed the notes, and on June 25th, it was the Alexander that had been accepted, and so it was incorrectly marked on the map that Alexander had been marked off. That's been corrected.
No, that's the question.
Just an FYI, or do you want the?
We would just like the committee's decision again about the Alexander Elementary School. How do y'all feel about having it in the high turnout model? Correct? High turnout?
Where is that on the map again?
It is this, it's really soft, but it's this dot right here at the bottom of Duncanville.
July. What's the name of it? Cedar Hill again.
I'll look.
New Apostolic, you have an
New
address?
Life
New
Apostolic.
Life?
Uh-huh. I know it's on Lebanon.
One above, the dot above it is Bill Hart's Elementary. In the next zone.
Okay,
So we were asking for your feedback, make sure that we have our statuses up to date for Alexander. How do you all
What-
feel about-
What's the survey score for Alexander?
One moment.
That's not a lot.
Are we still in the city of Duncanville? Is that correct? Okay.
so this is the language we're doing right now. In the last meeting, we're saying, how do we know that we're making the most accurate updates and we're catching everything?
Right.
When we took the time to review all the videos and the notes, we had a question about this one because it was previously, we believe, marked incorrectly and ruled out. So now we're just making a point to clarify if that, what the decision was.
Yeah, these were discussed June 15th, and the conversation at the time was that that was a hole that we wanted to bring one of them back. But I believe that Alexander had higher turnout than Brandenburg did, and that's what drove the kind of consensus that Alexander should be brought back. So, that's where we kind of left it, but it was not like, there wasn't a whole consensus. It was just kind of quietly moved on from. So we're just looking for you to say, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do it.
What city is this in?
Duncanville. The question was asked about the survey, so we're thinking we could locate that right now.
So for everybody's memory, I brought Brandenburg back on the map. It's east of the J. Elmer Weaver Freeway. At this moment, it's listed as not selected for HDM. Over here to the west of it is the Alexander Elementary School. We're bringing these both back to you, just asking, was this the correct decision made by this body?
You know,
Did we get that right?
Sure.
So these are both at the bottom of
What is it?
So is there something that'll show the distance between Duncanville Library and Alexandra Elementary? Like how close is it?
um,
Or how far away is it from the library?
one moment, please. Find them. It's 1.88 as the provides. Miles away from Duncanville Library.
What's the average distance traveled at Alexander? Do we know that?
It was not used in this last May election. It looks like in last November's election, it was 2.2 miles. In the last November election, only 113 people voted at that site.
You can put on your voter registration.
At the Alexander Elementary,
Mm-hmm.
113 people.
And for reference, Brandenburg in the same election saw 82 people. Their average, the average distance traveled by their voters was 1.8, so 0.4 miles less than the average on the other site.
Okay.
What you see right now, the brown layer is the voter density. So that is there for your review as well. You could say that Brandenburg is perhaps a little bit in the darker area. How are y'all feeling about Brandenburg staying as not selected, and how are you feeling about making a decision on Alexander Elementary School?
The school district saying.
They have not commented. Do we have Duncanville ISD online?
I think we need to allow them to make that decision. They know their student population and their traffic flow. I think if they don't respond is one thing, but I really believe that we need to allow the schools to make their decisions about election and voting in their facilities.
Given the choice, do you all want one or the other, or both, or just to go with what the ISD is proposing, or what the ISD would prefer?
I have to agree with Dr. Levels. I think that we need to let the school district make that decision.
So we will get with Duncanville ISD and we will ask them their preference between the two.
And I think that has been the cadence that we've had, that always acquiesce to the school districts. If they agree to that, then I'm good with that. But if they say they prefer one school over the other, then I think we need to allow that to happen.
So how much time do we have? Don't we have to have an answer to the commissioner's court by next Tuesday?
Thank you very much. That's exactly where it's going. You can't wait for the school. Now, you can say, we defer to the school district, but if they don't provide an answer, our recommendation is X.
Right. So look, that's our recommendation could be Alexander.
Yes, yes.
Now, what's your leaning towards, Alexander?
Would, as far as, I know what the schools look like, so.
Anyone else want to concur? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, sorry, refresh. That was low turnout, correct?
Than the other schools.
I'm sorry, that was High Turnout.
As far as the location, it looks good.
Okay, so what city?
Yes.
On Soto, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Those under levels help us out.
Okay, we're going to discuss the photo, beginning with the early voting site.
Probably also. Along with school district, I know it'll be DC3.
Okay, starting with early voting for DeSoto. DeSoto has one location, Disciple Central Community Church. Okay, that location will remain, and we are proposing, for it to be a permanent early voting location. So this one is okay, so Disciple Central is the early voting location. It has been approved by Commissioners Court, and there will be no changes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Low turnout. Are there any changes in DeSoto?
No changes. There is seven locations in the low turnout model that will go over to.
Let's look at high turnout.
Okay, with the high turnout model, do we have the DeSoto ISD available?
Yes, this is Sylvia Martinez. I'm on the line.
Okay, hi Sylvia. So we would like to review two locations that we need to update the status for. You mentioned that DeSoto did have adequate coverage for the May election and didn't feel that it may be a need for November, but you also wanted to compare the November presidential previously to kind of decide whether you would like to utilize Amber Terrace or Woodbridge.
Correct. And we provided feedback. Previously, the location was used, the school was closed, and that worked fine. At this time, the school is reopening, and with that being a school day for our early childhood center, we would like to keep that closed. DeSoto High School is right up the street, and we feel like that meets the need.
Okay, so just to confirm, Amber Terrace and Woodbridge will not be selected.
Correct.
Okay.
You show those.
Let's be clear. That's the school's recommendation.
Correct.
With the body's recommendation.
I recommend to follow, so ISD's recommendation of not utilizing Amber Terrace Elementary, Early Childhood Center, as well as Woodbridge Elementary.
Do we have any, okay. Any other recommendations? Follow that. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Yes, go ahead.
I said thank you.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. We're on the next one.
I just want to make sure we're all clear. So turn on those two yellow dots. So those were two dots that we had looked at. We thought there may be a hole. And so we've got nothing else. So are we good with that hole?
What is the green dot at the very bottom?
The Captain Johnson Technology Magnet Academy.
Okay, so we have added them on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think, first of all, Amber Terrace is a pre-K school. You have very small children in early childhood, and this is their first year back open.
Yeah.
And I don't suggest we interrupt that flow of those infants to 4-year-old children. Woodbridge Elementary, I think of the two, I would recommend Woodbridge over Amber Terrace. If we want to just push one of them, but Woodbridge is in the middle of the neighborhood, a lot of houses, very active, engaged parents. And it would be beneficial if we could do that. the school district, I'm sure, has a reason why they don't want to utilize that school. So we're adding the high school back on, because the high school was off for a while. It's back on?
Yes, the DeSoto High School would be in the high turnout model.
Okay, so adding the high school back on, so you're adding 2 new ones and you're releasing 2, so it's almost like an even switch.
The other? Okay.
Everybody's comfortable with that.
Everyone's okay with leaving those two?
And I just want to make sure that we're providing clarity.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the heights. If there's no additional comment. Danielle's moving between a lot of different data, so allow her just to keep that. Starting with early voting.
So Glen Heights historically has not had an early voting site. They have had to add one in any election where they wanted, their voters to heavily participate. So what you're seeing right now is our historically standard early voting site filter. And as you can see, there's nothing in front of it.
Okay, so Glen Heights City Hall, as Treasurer mentioned, has been utilized throughout the elections. They would like to switch over to Glen Heights Family Center, which is a newly built location, and that location has participated in previous elections. I know at least May election. So ideally, it would be okay. It would be a newly added location, which is Glen Heights Family Center.
So to clarify, Glen Heights has never had one on the roster, but when they did have an early voting center, it was the Glen Heights City Hall. Glen Heights has now updated one of their government centers, and it's allowing us to use the Glen Heights Family Center. We did use it in a previous election. It was terrific. We are proposing that we use the Glen Heights Family Center as a standard early voting site, or rather that we have it as an early voting site in all of our countywide elections.
Yes.
Any objections to that?
No.
Okay, great.
Okay, what about low turnout?
So for the low turnout model, there's 2 locations in Glen Heights that will be utilized, and that there will be no changes.
Sorry, to be clear, the Franklin Moats Elementary School would be in addition. With the Franklin Moats would be in addition
To the low turnout model?
I mean,
For the low turnout?
For the low turnout model?
yeah. Oh, I apologize. It was on our March submission. You're right.
The only change in the low turnout model is that the new early voting site would become the new election day site.
Everyone hear that? So now, if there's no comments or feedback, let's go ahead and move on to the high turnout model.
It looks like Glen Heights is not affected by the high turnout model. They will have the same number of election day locations regardless of what model the county is using. They will have 3 locations in a low turnout model election and 3 locations in a high turnout model election.
And so to be clear, in that right-hand side, that the brown areas, we looked for a location there, right? And we could find nothing. That's only residential. Is that correct?
There's a church down there. There's a church right there at Buell Road and Parker. Parker.
What's the name of that church, Dr. Love?
It's changed. It's
changed?
It's changed.
Okay.
I don't know what where is Katherine Johnson? Where the green dot is?
All right.
So it's that intersection where where the 2 roads intersect.
Okay.
That church is right in that area. And there's another church further down Buell Road. If you move north up Buell Road, which is Polk at that point, there's another church in that area. Yeah, continue. There's a right in there. There's a church right there. think it's, these are they. I think that's the name of it. These are they, something to that effect.
And that one's in DeSoto or Glen?
It's DeSoto.
Oh, it's
Yeah, so
DeSoto.
we're looking
So
for
where-
heights.
It's right there. That's it right there.
So where
That's the church.
in the Glen Heights?
I thought he was trying to focus in that brown area,
Oh, that
the dark
active
brown
green,
area.
yeah.
I was trying to find something closer to the brown area.
We're looking at the area to the right of Glen Heights, the name Glen Heights on the map.
Southeast. Okay.
And so I think we found nothing there, and so folks in that area would either have to go, to the left or to the west, or directly to the north. It's keeping in mind that you don't have to vote in your city.
Right. Center is very nice.
Okay, so does everyone feel okay with Glen Heights?
Yeah.
Which school is that in DeSoto? In Glen Heights? Which DeSoto ISD school is that in Glen Heights?
We have the Frank D. Mose Elementary School and the McAllen Middle School.
Both? Okay.
Or next?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so starting with the early voting sites.
Okay, so Lancaster, we have 2 locations. Cedar Valley Campus, South College, and Lancaster Veterans Memorial Library. So there would be no change for that city.
So I really apologize. So the Cedar Valley campus, Dallas College, it looks like it's above the Lancaster city line, but we are including it in what we call Lancaster just because of that, the address. It's in Lancaster, Texas. It looks on the map outside of the boundary of Lancaster, though. I'm not sure. So we're talking about these 2 blue dots.
That's fine.
Okay, any feedback about those two
So those
locations?
2 are both early voting?
Those two are both early voting.
And it's not a change.
No, it hasn't changed.
Okay, so let's go ahead and, do we have any changes or anything in low turnout model?
Yeah, so I'm just confirming the amount for the low turnout model that will go over to the high turnout model. It's 5 locations. There will not be any changes.
There would be adding Cedar Valley, because that's the early voting location.
That's correct. So something that slipped through was that in the low turnout model, which was approved in March 2023, we took off Cedar Valley campus due to its lower turnout. We've since added it back as an early voting location to service the college students. Because it is an early voting location, it must be in the low turnout model. Because it's in the low turnout model, it must be in the high turnout model. So that is technically a change, though it is not unfamiliar to the public.
Okay, so what's that? Low turnout model. Now let's go to the high turnout model.
Okay, the high turnout model, we have a total of 9 locations. So there will be an additional 4. Wait, an additional 3 locations that's added to the high turnout model for Lancaster.
Okay.
So can you repeat that? How many total?
So a total of 9 for the high turnout.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments or any feedback?
Okay, what's our next city? Hutchins?
I think Wilmer is next on
Yeah,
our
let's
list.
start looking. Okay, so next we'll be discussing Wilmer, the early voting sites in Wilmer.
As you can see, historically, they have not had an early voting site.
Hutchins City Hall will now become the, what we're proposing that Hutchins City Hall is now the permanent.
I thought we were going
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry for the confusion.
to Wilmer.
We're doing Wilmer or Hutchins?
So close.
They are. Which one? We're gonna go to Wilmer. Sorry about that. We're going to Wilmer. Okay. Okay. So Wilmer Community Center is proposing, it has been utilized throughout the elections and it will be a permanent early voting location.
Does that sound good?
yes.
All right, let's into those now. As you can see, nothing has changed here in Wilmer with the low turnout. They will still have that one site being the Wilmer Community Center. That is not a change. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay,
High turnout.
we will look at the high turnout. They again just have the Wilmer Community Center. That is not a change.
So any feedback, questions? Okay, so now I think we should be Hutchins. Okay. So Hutchins.
We have Wilmer Hutchins High School for also in the high turnout model, correct?
Oh, wait.
Can we confirm that?
Yeah. Okay, great, sorry.
They're showing Dallas, right?
So Hutchins, right here again, a small city that historically has not had a vote center unless they ask for it. So we are proposing
Hutchins City Hall as our early voting location. As Petra said, we would like to keep some consistency as they utilize the Hutchins Community Center for election day. So Hutchins City Hall will be for early voting and election day. Any back there?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay, moving on. Any questions? Sorry, anything to discuss for low turnout? No.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I was cutting ahead because I'm looking at the map. I toggled it on and nothing is coming up in Hutchins. I'm toggling on to be tentatively approved for high turnout model and one appears across the border, it looks like, and that is the Wilmer Hutchins High School, which was mentioned in the room. And that wraps up for Hutchins. Are there any comments?
The next city. I'm gonna go to Seagoville. Yeah, so the next location will be Seagoville.
No site. Or in the past.
Okay, so we just received confirmation that Seagoville City Hall for early voting, they will now be a permanent location for early voting. So Seagoville now has it in early voting location. Anything for low turnout? The low turnout model, there were 3 locations. I will be transitioning over to the high turnout model, which brings a running total of 4 locations now for Seagoville.
And that's out of alignment with what you're seeing on the map right now. I have the Seagoville Elementary School and the Seagoville City Hall showing. Which location am I missing?
First Baptist Church.
First Baptist.
Seagoville.
So First Baptist Church, Seagoville did permanently decline us. That's why, or excuse me, they permanently declined us. We replaced it with the Seagoville Elementary School.
What's the next?
Okay, so it looks like Central Elementary School and H3 are not appearing. I can't speak to why. is on Seaville. I apologize, HRD is not in Seaville, it is on the street Seaville.
Oh.
That's why that, yeah.
So that's what they're in the confusion.
Okay, so moving on.
How many, two locations or?
So there will be three, however, there is one location that needs to be reviewed that will potentially make it four.
I'm not saying the third location.
So just to confirm, the three locations is Seagoville Elementary, Seagoville City Hall, and Central Elementary.
Central Elementary is the one that's not reflecting.
Distance between those.
How close is Seagoville High School from those locations?
So the distance from the city hall to the central elementary school site is about a half a mile. The distance. And the distance from the Seaville Elementary School to the central elementary school, DUISD, is about 1.1 miles. And then please say the request again.
Seagoville High School.
Yes, that's not a location we've ever used, but let me map this. From their early voting center, it would be about 3.2 miles as it applies.
What's the turnout for the location below? That one. Store turnout.
It saw 5 people in May. But, the first stop to Cedarville was I believe that was a brand new location for us. We replaced it with a brand new location, the Cedarville Elementary School, as well as I can't remember what was on the ballot, but, yeah, they saw 5 people in May.
My perspective, I don't know whether we have a location open a couple blocks away with for 5 people.
Are there similar comments in the crowd?
I agree.
Would we like to reconsider accepting Seaville Elementary School?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Would we like to tentatively not select it?
Is there anyone in Cedarville?
Are we talking high turnout or low?
Nobody's on the call.
This would be for high turnout.
5 people.
Well, there have been situations, I don't know anything about this.
That's it.
There have been situations where like I don't know, a person has a handicap, I don't know. anything about this.
There's 4 locations, 5.
Too many.
I don't know.
So I want to clarify, because that location is currently used for low turnout and high turnout. So there was a question asked if it's for high turnout only, so we just need to clarify with that. Are we reducing to 2 locations for both models and we're gonna add
Yes.
a location, or are we?
Yeah, I'm just looking at that lower dot. I see no brown, so the density is low and the turnout's low. And so it seems to me to make sense to not use that one and to use that one, the one above, where there is the neighborhood, right?
Yes.
So we would be rejecting the Cedarville Elementary School for both a low turnout and a high turnout model, but we would be keeping the Central Elementary School DUISD for a low turnout and a high turnout.
Yes.
Okay.
Any objections to that?
No.
There is one location in Seagoville that needs to be reviewed. This is to potentially fill a hole. The location was suggested or recommended by, the VCAC member, Robin Wood Baptist Church.
So that's on the far west side of Cedarville. It's faint, but my mouse is covered over it.
What is that? I'm sorry.
Robert T. Hill Middle School.
Robinwood Baptist Church is the title of the location.
East 4, 38.7.
They are happy and more than willing to open, to hold election day. Do you have any comment, feedback?
And to be clear, the layers that I'm showing, or the filter that I'm showing right now is the high turnout model, so this would fit in. Illustrates even in the high turnout model. Okay.
No objections to adding that location in the high turnout model? Right, do it.
So their historically standard site is the Gulf Springs Civic Center.
I don't think.
No change, let's go ahead and move on.
Is that good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was asking my friend. Didn't want you to have anything. We want to make sure. We covered.
Okay, so there were 2 locations, utilized in the low turnout model that'll go over to the high turnout model, which will bring a total of 4 locations for the high turnout model. Those additional 2 locations were previously discussed and approved by the committee.
What is that one that's down in the left-hand corner again? Right, there.
Richard Legal Elementary School.
I've seen the addition of 2 locations. For the high turnout model, the 2 linking ones. Those are ones we previously discussed, nothing to, everyone's comfortable with that?
Yes, this would be the Gulf Springs Civic Center and the AC New Middle School, both sites that we've used for years.
Move on.
I'm gonna try to get this one in a good view. Mesquite is kind of long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so from east, we have 4 early voting locations that have been utilized, and from my understanding, those were
We should agree on that one right now.
It's 3.
okay. Sorry, I have to refilter. There's 3 locations for voting.
Lakeside, Florence Recreation Center, and the Eastfield Campus, Dallas College, those are not a change from our earlier plan. So is there any need for adding any more? Would y'all like to take anything away from the existing plan? Okay, we'll talk about low turnout model.
There's a total of 19 locations for the low turnout model. Okay, so those locations will transition over to the high turnout model with no changes. There are a few locations that we do need to review. Just to confirm, we have the statuses up to date. Just a moment. We have Gentry Elementary School.
So that's on the south side of Mesquite.
This location would potentially fill a hole, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so these green around it would be used in a high turnout model. Where my mouse is now, that would be the Gentry Elementary School. Would we like to add it to the high turnout model? the Gentry Elementary School. It has not been there. We have not traditionally had a site there.
They're building up around that area too, right?
It's crazy.
What's,
It looks like, did we propose this one because of that density area right there?
To answer your question, Room, the closest location to the east would be Horn High School. A little further away from that would be the J.R. Thompson Elementary School.
I think both of those suffice.
I hear in the room that those two schools can handle the turnout, regardless of Gentry being there. Are we okay moving ahead without Gentry on the list for the high turnout model?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the next to talk about would be Mott's Elementary School near the kind of central.
Why are we visiting Mott's?
I believe because we had inconsistent notes about this committee's decision. So, again, I have the high turnout model layer turned on. Mont Elementary has not been used historically. This new vote center. Would we like to add it to the high turnout model? It fits right in here. I'm not sure about the development in that area, but it looks to be a little paler than other sites in the Mesquite, in terms of density, voter density.
They just broke ground on a new.
They sure did.
Sure, thoughts, Ms. Bonnie.
I mean, I think it's a good idea to have it there. They just broke ground on a huge
They
development that will
sure
start
did.
selling in 2024. So
We have any other feedbacks? I see not, so
Have we
Got a
got any
yes?
feedback from
Yes.
the schools?
have you had any, heard any, what is the month?
MISD?
They haven't commented. We did recently survey, so it wasn't a decline or.
So I'm hearing that we would tentatively like to accept this for high turnout.
Yes.
Okay, so our last one in Mesquite would be here in the north. Closest to the Dr. J.C. Kennedy Elementary School. The location we're talking about is Petite High School.
man,
Yes.
OT is huge.
It's a huge school.
Huge school.
So would we like to proceed without further discussion, adding it to the high turnout model?
Yes.
Yeah, what do we have that elementary school there for? Rollover or something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little inconsistent, they kind of have similar.
Decent job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's probably one they've been using for years.
Yeah.
So we will add the Poteet High School to our high turnout model. And with those decisions, do we feel that Ms. Lee is adequately covered for a high turnout model?
Yes.
All right, let's move on to Sunnyvale. Okay, we're starting with the early voting site for Sunnyvale. Yes, and as we see, they have not had one, like on a list. They have had to ask any election where they want to have one. Perfect.
Okay, so the early voting location is Sunnyvale Town Hall. They have granted us permission to utilize their location for early voting on election day. So it looks like that would be the only location in that area for low turnout or high turnout. That would be the only location. I will say that we did attempt to contact 2 additional locations, which have declined in that area.
Sunnyvale's kind of a bedroom community, so most people are gonna drive into Dallas to go to work or Mesquite or whatever, so I think that would suffice for that community.
Are there any other comments before we move on?
Question, were the 2 locations that you tried to contact, were those within the ISD? And within the school system?
It was the Doris Paget Public Library, which, actually great to bring up. They were super excited to be, approached about being the vote center. Unfortunately, they do not currently have the space. However, they said that they are working towards a bond in the next couple of years to build a new library And they would love for this committee to, after a couple of years down the line,
Okay.
they were very, very happy being asked. The other location that we looked into was the New Covenant United Methodist Church. I'm not familiar.
They didn't respond.
Oh.
We reached out to them, but they did not respond.
Okay, and then, also the Hilltop Baptist Church, we tried. With no luck. So moving on, we have the ISD, right? So none in the ISD, that was one public library and 2 churches. So moving on to Garland. Okay, moving on to Rowlett, excuse me. Rowlett.
Okay, previously for Rowlett, the early voting location, they were utilizing the Rowlett City Hall Annex. And considering we're trying to maintain consistency, Freedom Place Church will replace that location. And they will be for early voting and election day.
To clarify why it would be more consistent, we were only allowed to use the Rowlett City Hall Annex for early voting. We were forced over to the Coyle Middle School for election day. We are now proposing that we use Freedom Place Church, which is just above both of those. Here, let me turn it back on. Yeah, just above both of those, for both early voting and election day. So that would remove Coyle Middle School as an election day site.
Perfect.
For low turnout and high turnout, yes. And rotate it with the Freedom Church. Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Low turnout model.
Low turnout.
Low turnout model, we have 5 locations that will carry over to the high turnout model, which brings a total of 7.
It looks to be that these 5 locations, with the exception of Freedom Church, have always been there. This is not going to be a change.
So, can you show us the 2 that were added? I believe. Seeing 1, I don't see this. Second.
Place Church, number 17.
So Petra, show us Freedom Place Church. Freedom Place is this spot, where my mouse was. I'm trying to find Stevens. So Freedom Place Church is this spot in the center of Rowlett, and the Stevens Elementary School, which is a new site, what was used in the last November election.
But it looks like we're going from 6 to 7, according to the map, correct?
That's what I think so.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So does that wrap up Rowlett? Yeah. So now moving on to the early voting sites and
Taxi.
okay. Danielle's going to make the call. By historically standard filter up on the map right now, you'll see a red dot. That is for the Saxby Senior Center. We are no longer allowed to use that.
So we will be utilizing the Saxby City Hall for early voting and election day.
And it is in the same plot of land. It's just another building.
That's pretty easy.
One point with that.
Taxi, they're all like right there.
So that was early voting. Our low turnout model would add 2 sites in Saxby for election day. First UMC is Saxby, and the E.G. Hudson Middle School. The first UMC is Saxy, that would be a new location. E.G. Hudson Middle School is, historically been there. Do we feel that the low turnout model is sufficient?
So there was an addition of that one in the far left-hand corner
Yes,
for coverage purposes.
yes. Moving on to the high turnout model, there are no changes. Saxy will see 3 election day vote centers, in a low turnout model election and a high turnout model election.
In that upper right corner, that dark area, we looked, we find nothing, is that correct?
There was one location, I exited it out already. But yes, there's one location we attempted it, it was a church, Chase Oaks Church, and we did not receive a reply.
I think we used that church before, haven't we? Chase Oaks.
When we were precinct based, yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that wraps up Saxy. We're moving on to Garland.
And get as close as they can, but it's either it goes 0 to 100.
Okay, so starting with the early voting sites.
There's 2 locations for early voting in Garland. The 2 locations are Garland Center, Dallas College, and South Garland Branch Library.
Those would not be a change to the model that we've been, or the early voting plan that we've been living under. So moving on to the low turnout model.
Okay, low turnout model, there will not be any changes. Garland has a total of, total of 29 locations. We'll transfer over to the high turnout model.
30 locations.
30. It's 30.
A lot of locations.
Okay, so does that cover low turnout and high turnout for Garland?
There's more for high turnout.
There's more for high turnout, okay.
Okay, so I have a total, please correct me if needed, I have a total of 39 locations for the high turnout model.
Sufficient coverage and a high turnout model for Garland.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We'll move on to Richardson.
Okay, so starting with the early voting sites in Richardson.
So the one early voting site that was on the list was the Richardson Civic Center. Some of you may be aware it burned down.
Almost. Not quite. Close.
So we are seeking to replace it officially with a location a little bit up the road, up I-75, called the First Baptist Richardson. We did use it in this past May election. It saw over 3,000 voters. Does that sound like a reasonable replacement?
Absolutely.
What was the replacement again?
First Baptist.
Oh, yes.
And they want us, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so if there's no more feedback, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's one location that was recommended by the commissioner. This location is the Islamic Association of North Texas.
Yes.
To be utilized as an early voting location.
Yes.
Yes.
So a lot of yeses.
So to give perspective, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. This yellow dot where my mouse is the Islamic Association of North Texas. Above is First Baptist Richardson, and below it is the Richland campus, Dallas College.
Distinctly different voters.
So we are hearing that we will accept it as an early voting location, which then makes it a low turnout location and a high turnout location. So it will be added to.
So I'm just give Pedro some advice, my brother, the salesman said, once you made the sale, stop selling.
Hi, this is Mona Lisa.
Move on, next. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, this is Mona Lisa with the City of Grand Prairie. I just wanted to find out what the city secretary advised on adding that location.
I'm fine with it.
So I'm good, Mona Lisa.
Thank you.
Low turnout.
Okay. Anything else? Move on to low turnout. Okay, so let's look at the low turnout model, Richardson. If there's anything to address there. Okay, so for the low turnout model, there will not be any changes. There's a total number of 16 locations that will transition over to the high turnout model, which would now bring the high turnout model to a total of 19 with 3 additional locations.
Dude, where's the third?
That's gonna be the. No, I'm not mentioning. IANT was already in the low turnout model. Oh, okay, so this is a total of 18.
And I did want us to shoot on back to Garland. When we brought up the IANT, I noticed another yellow dot that we had wanted to bring up just real quick. So, it is the Vietnamese Community Center. I'm going to turn on the early voting buffers and turn on what sites we do already have. So actually, so if I turn on just the proposed standard, and I'll remove these layers just for the moment. So this is the Vietnamese Community Center. It does reside in a hole. We identified it as another, a location of cultural significance. What do y'all think about adding it as an early voting site?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
We have to service that community.
okay, so early voting.
Yes, that needs to be added.
We're looking for a judge. That speaks Vietnamese.
So that will be a change to the early voting, low turnout model and high turnout model. We will move on to Addison. Yes.
Can we go back to Richardson for a second?
Sorry, yes.
On this list, in green is the MAS Islamic Center of Dallas as to be an ad.
There's 2 Islamic centers.
I know, I wasn't familiar with the second one being an ad, the one on Blake.
MAS, yes.
That one, yeah, that was approved in one of our meetings
It was.
earlier.
Okay, is that replacing?
It is not, it is an ad.
It's an ad.
Yes.
And that will be early voting?
That will not, the Mosque Islamic Center will not be early voting. It will just be election day.
Okay.
Yes.
For high turnout? Okay.
And
Any
now-
other questions? Okay. Let's move on. City, we're moving to Addison.
Moving on to Addison, they have not had a name or a vote center on the list.
Early voting.
And early voting, thank you.
We want it.
So Addison Conference Center be the early voting location in Addison.
So looking at their low turnout model. I appear to have 2 dots. They're the same location. Not sure what's happening there. But in the low turnout model, they would have the Addison Conference Center in the Alpha J. Lewis Field House. The shop.
Excellent. We're not using fire station.
We are not.
Thank you.
So I'm hearing agreement with what we're proposing for the low turnout model. Moving on to the high turnout model, there will be no change. Addison will have the same number of election day locations in a low turnout model election and a high turnout model election. Moving on, Farmers Branch.
So what was the number?
What was the number? We didn't. hear.
Right, they will have, that was
Addison,
Two
two locations.
For
Yeah.
low turnout and 2 for high.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so for Farmers Branch, we have 2 locations, Brookhaven campus and Farmers Branch Nancy Library.
That's for early voting.
For early voting, thank you. So these are the 2 locations that will be utilized in the Farmers Branch for early voting.
Okay,
Any comments about that? I guess we're right. Okay, let's move on to the low turnout. That's already. Low turnout model, there's a total of 5 that will transition over, no changes.
okay. What about for high turnout?
Okay, it'll be the same, no changes. So Addison will have a total of 5 locations.
Farmers Branch.
Farmers Branch. Give me another one.
I'm sorry. So it'll be a total of 5 locations in Farmers Branch.
There's 6.
6.
There's 6.
Yes. There will be 6.
Okay, there will
Fine.
be 6 locations.
One more. One more.
Low turnout, high turnout. Any low turnout?
The low turnout is 5.
So we're adding one down in that right here.
So the 5th, for the 6th that will be added on in a high turnout model election will be the Chapel Hill Preparatory School.
We've used that before too as well.
We have. So is that, are we satisfied with Farmers Branch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to Carrollton early voting site. What do we have there, Danielle?
Okay, so Carrollton, we have 1 location, which is the Josie Ranch Library.
Keeping that one, that will not be a change. We will not be adding another early voting site. Is that okay? Okay.
For the low turnout model, we have a total of 5 locations. High turnout model, we have a total of 7. So there's 2 additional.
So 5 in the low turnout and then 7 in the high turnout. Any feedback or questions? Okay, so let's wrap up Carrollton and move on to what's the next city? Oh,
Yeah.
Starting with their early voting site.
No change. They have had the Capel Town Center and they will continue to have only the Capel Town Center as an early voting site. So for the low turnout model,
The low turnout model, they will have a total of, I'm sorry, there was a total of 6 locations.
The low turnout. There's a total of 5 for the low turnout model. Oh.
there are 5.
There's a total of 5.
Nothing's changed with those.
Nothing has changed with these. It looks to be that all of these locations have been used for years and we have not made any modifications. Does that sound okay?
About the high turnout.
For the high turnout model, we would be adding one site. And that would be the River Chase Elementary School to the east. We feel like that's appropriate for a high turnout model.
Everyone okay?
Okay.
Okay, does that wrap up our? I'm sorry. So like,
This is Ashley Owens with the City of Coppell. I just wanted to confirm that you guys aren't proposing the life safety park for any of your models.
That is correct. We are not.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
okay. Everyone okay? Everyone's still with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to our presentation.
Oh, we're not.
Oh, wait, we're not. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I kicked you off.
We have the biggest part to come.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How could I forget about Dallas?
You just decided you were gonna.
Ready? Discuss the early voting site for Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we begin discussing the early voting locations, there are 3 locations that have been suggested. One of the locations is the J.C. Zaragoza Recreation Center by the commissioner to be utilized as an early voting location.
So this over here to the west, under the Verts Eagle Ford is the J.C. Zaragoza Rec Center, and then the blue dots that surround it are what are already existing as early voting sites. The commissioner has suggested this. How does the committee feel about adding J.C. Zaragoza as an early voting site?
Yes.
Yes.
We will take as an early voting site.
Yes.
The next location would be South Dallas Government Center.
For the South Dallas Government Center, it is down the street from the Friendship West Baptist Church, which of course has been historically used. It is extremely popular. We did look around the Friendship West Baptist Church area only because of the extreme cost. So we found a Dallas County Government Center just down the road called the South Dallas Government Center. We did survey it and we found that the size would not be comparable to the Friendship West Baptist Church. So while we attempted to reduce the cost of using that Friendship West Baptist Church Vote Center, but we aren't actually successful. So we did look into it. We did attempt to reduce the cost for these elections because they charge the same amount every election, but we were unable to. So.
Question, was Carter High School considered as well? It's right across the street.
It didn't hold all those
It
people.
was not that I'm familiar with.
They don't have.
They don't have the capacity to
They don't have the
do what
capacity.
Friendship could do.
Ms. Diane, you had your hand up.
I'm sorry, I missed the last meeting. Carol briefed me about it, and I understand there was a discussion about Friendship West and the amount of money they're charging. And I was wondering how much of a factor larger than everybody else is Friendship charging?
There. My memory is, I think the 3 numbers that stuck out in my mind, I think, 20,000 for D-triple-C, 16,000 for Harvard Beamer, and 14,000 for Friendship West. After that, everything's the $4,000 or $5,000 range.
DC3 is higher than.
That's crazy.
But let's look at the number of voters.
That's
We
right.
can,
They both
please.
get huge turnout for
Yes, ma'am.
voters.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't say that you can do Carter. Nobody in that area can do what Friendship West is doing.
Can you negotiate with them? I mean, that's not very civically minded, in my opinion.
The price.
I think that's probably one of the things. I mean, first off, let me say that we're always looking to be fiscally responsible for our city.
Yes.
And so, and we're, by law, we're supposed to look at government buildings. So in this particular case, there was an option, so we looked at it. It's a little on the bubble. It's maybe a little questionable, maybe not a great alternative. As far as negotiating goes, then when we are kind of stuck, we haven't really had the authority to negotiate because I have no alternative. So it's you don't have much leverage. I think, some sort of thought or statement by this group, to try to keep our costs down would be helpful. But in the end, it's, you don't have the leverage. So, and we appreciate, and that's not to take away anything from those, let's put it this way. People that try to know my business, that don't know my business, I don't necessarily appreciate that. I don't understand their business either. Those churches, they got bills to pay and so I don't want to presume to get into their business. They need 100% legitimate costs. So I think remember the last meeting I said, cost is a factor, it is not the factor.
Right.
So there's lots of things to consider. So we're tossing that out to you guys. I'm assuming, that you're gonna want to say Friendship West is a good location, let's keep it, and mind do the best you can to keep costs.
Their commissioner could talk to them.
Maybe everything, I mean, I don't, maybe they're actually, like you said, we don't know what they're using it for. I kind of like what you said, but we don't know another person's business, right?
That's right.
We don't, maybe that isn't cost.
I don't think
Hi,
so.
Michael, this is Mona Lisa in Grand Prairie.
Yes.
I don't think it's a cost.
Hi, it's Mona Lisa in Grand Prairie.
They
Go ahead,
I know we
Mona Lisa.
discussed this center last time, and I think it's obviously a great center where people
is.
partake in voting, and it's a go-to. I would just, and I think we talked about this previously, maybe just make a suggestion to Commissioners Court. Maybe at some point they could cap the amount charged, or maybe, request an itemized statement of some sort. Not that we don't want to pay that amount, but just so that we're sure that we're being good stewards.
Yeah, but.
And I appreciate the point. I appreciate her point.
Yeah.
But if we start asking for itemized statements.
Yeah, I don't.
We're gonna have to do that for every one of these centers, and that's gonna really be, that'll be too hard for us to deal with.
But we don't have a
Right, and
negotiating
just to make
power.
that, just
because
to
we
make a
don't have a
suggestion to
place.
the commissioners, just to make a suggestion to the commissioners court and let them decide, like, maybe they would consider a different way. It doesn't have to be a statement. Those were just examples, but, a way to let them know that this location is important to all of us.
It is.
But
I
that,
agree with you,
there's
Mona Lisa.
we want to be good stewards.
I understand what she's saying.
Mona Lisa, I agree with you, but we don't have negotiating power because there's no other place that if they say they're not gonna do this or they don't want to do that, then we don't have another place. So we're stuck. And until we get another place, we can't do
Yeah, no, I
much.
completely agree. And that's why I
And
just
not-
thought, maybe it would just be a suggestion to the commissioners court. Nothing we have to decide and nothing we should decide. I don't believe.
I don't think so.
Yes, I think, as we stated previously, that we leave it on as is, and as I suggested to your team, that there be a conversation
Right.
with Pastor Haynes and his team. I think that, if there are questions about what they are charging, go to the organization and ask them, why are you charging us this? I know that that is a facility that's used for banquets, for events, and they're probably charging you the event price that they normally charge anyone else that utilizes that facility. It is a large facility, and so it has great parking. I think that we leave it on as is, but I think if there's a question, then we need to go to them and ask the question. And I think I further stated that if we want to move to standardized pricing, I don't know how that's gonna fit with some of our smaller churches, some of the kind of small churches and some of the small organizations that really can't afford that type of pricing. So I think we need to be careful about that, be mindful before we just jump off the end. I don't believe that the commissioners are going to support that type of a recommendation that we start asking for, itemized receipts or something to that effect. Hosting something for that long, if you look at me, if you've had a wedding, if you've had a baby shower at any center, you know how much that costs. And that's just for your 2 hours. Imagine the utility and the manpower to manage a 10-hour shift for 10 days. Then the election day, that's money, that's electricity, that's security. So I don't believe that we take any types of step on this facility. I think if we're gonna take a step, the first step is to have a conversation.
I think your points are all well taken. I hear you. And we will just do the best we can to be good stewards of the citizens' money, at the same time serving the public. So
Yes.
we'll take those comments.
And I want to make one more, and you didn't hear this, Dr. Level, but DC3 was 20,000. So it's not just Friendship West. That's why when you mention price, you have to really know all the
And I've
factors.
requested that information for the committee. I have
Yes.
requested that we see the pricing from all
All
of
of
them
them.
so that we can understand as a voting committee what we are dealing with.
And just so you know, on your application, you click on any one of those dots, it'll tell you the price.
Also on the
That's
spreadsheet that's posted online.
It's on there.
There is a column for cost on the spreadsheet online. And
Okay.
I think it is worth mentioning that, the Friendship West Baptist Church was the 19th most visited site in our May election and the 23rd most early voting site, 19th most visited early voting site in our May election and the 23rd most visited early voting site in our November election. So,
Most visited.
So we'll go ahead and move on. We're gonna keep that one on the list.
Yes.
Next location is St. Paul United Methodist. This location was discussed previously, with the intention of finding early voting location in the downtown area.
Have they agreed?
They have agreed, we discussed, the cost. So, they said that they would be willing to charge around 7,200 for to host early voting.
That's reasonable considering there's a very large walking population in that area.
So I think we should, I would recommend accepting that location. I can tell you that we're going to keep our eye on that location. As you can see, the density in that area is still there. We're gonna, regardless of what we do, in this low turnout model, we're going into presidential year.
Yes.
We'll still continue to shop. And by the way, we have contacted Perot Museum,
The school.
Folsom Foods. We got turned on by both of them.
Well, that's so civic minded.
Is the St. Paul the one across the street from Booker T?
yes, that is correct. We'll discuss that in a bit.
Okay, moving on.
Oh, so we will accept it as an early voting site.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so move along with the early voting sites for. For Oak Cliff.
Yes, let's talk about
Oak Cliff has agreed to host early voting. They're already participating in Section A and have been approved. But, they are open to hosting early voting as well.
Great. Why would somebody dash that up?
No, one moment, please.
Uh-oh.
So this blank dot, where my mouse is, kind of central south of Dallas is where Fort Oak Cliff would be, and that was recommended as an early voting site. Would y'all like to accept? It's a local community center.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we will add Fort Oak Cliff to the early voting plan as well as the low turnout and the high turnout.
Yes. Great. Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that concludes our questions in Dallas. Now we can talk about, our low turnout model changes.
Sorry, just allow Danielle one moment to get our low turnout.
So I'm showing that the Park South YMCA, which was approved in March 2023, is now permanently unavailable. And we have replaced it with, the X-Line Recreation Center, I believe. So this empty dot is where the Park South YMCA was. We are replacing it with the X-Line Recreation Center. Is that appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. The other change that happened was, the Potter's House. So Potter's House has been ducking us for a while and
He's too busy building houses in Atlanta.
so, it was approved in March. We weren't able to use it in May. We replaced it with the Moises y Molina High School. So, Potter's House. We replaced it with the Moises y Molina. It's somewhere over here. Moises y Molina was across the highway. We used it. Do y'all accept that as a permanent replacement? Okay.
Yes.
So we will accept that as a permanent replacement. Those are all the changes, yes, those are all the changes to the low turnout model for Dallas. So now we will look at the high turnout model. Zoom back out.
How many locations do we have in low turning model in Dallas with those changes?
Yeah, 206. So there's 206 locations in Dallas that will, transfer over to the high turnout model. Okay, moving along, we have election day. There are
Turnout.
high turnout model election day. Just to clarify, there are a few locations that I would like to review with you all before moving forward and confirming the amount of locations for high turnout. Please come on. So the first location will be Charles A. Gill. This location was previously used and, the status was showing unavailable due to construction. However, Dallas ISD has confirmed that this location is available. So we would like to review it and get your feedback.
Do we need it?
So again, we had presented it as unavailable. the ISD corrected us and said that it is available. What I'm showing right now are the tentatively approved for high turnout model locations. Those are in green. And this yellow dot is what we had showed as unavailable, but it is available. Would y'all like to accept it for high turnout model? It is, let me gauge the distance. It is 0.33 miles of crow flies from Living Waters Church of God. It saw, the last big election we used it for was in November 2020, and it saw 221 voters in that election. It is across the street from across Ferguson Road from Living Waters Church of God. Do we feel like it's necessary for a high turnout model?
Out that both of those locations were open in 2020 and they both had over 200 voters.
I'd say we keep it. Ferguson Road is a very busy street, 6 lanes of speeding.
So we will keep Charles A. Gill and we'll discuss the next one.
Next location is the First Presbyterian Church of Dallas. Now, this location was recommended by a VCAC member to potentially replace Johnson Central Library. It was mentioned that there's a lot of congestion and parking issue with Johnson Central Library. We visited this location recently. Days forward, one moment.
For reference, Johnson Central Library in this past November saw 545 people on election day. That's a good turnout. For downtown, it maybe does suggest there are some parking issues, so we do have some definitely higher turnout downtown locations. You have a question in the room?
Well, I just want to make a statement. The parking at Central Library is wonderful. I don't, but that people don't know to go to the back of the building to get to the access the parking.
That's what I'm thinking.
That the Johnson Central Library does have good parking, but perhaps it's a familiarity issue that people don't know where the entrance to the underground parking garage is.
So would you, any member suggested making the change and do they have anything they want to say?
Not here. And I'm thinking, what about the city of Dallas workers that are right across the street?
Right.
Yeah, that's a great location.
Yeah.
They're to go right across the street.
Yeah.
And the other,
City employees, right?
No, it's not with walking by a VCAC number.
To change from the Johnson Library.
Johnson to First Presbyterian. By one of the members suggested that, so we researched. Now we're bringing it back to you.
I like both of them for 2 different reasons. One, of course, well, they're both very close to the homeless population that's right there, that that church particularly serves. But I concur, there's plenty of parking. We just need to do a better job of advertising. Maybe put in sandwich boards, boards out there and say parking out this way, something like that.
So, for clarification, I don't think it was recommended as a replacement. I believe you did bring it up in another meeting about the homeless population and then servicing that area, which is why the church began. But
So around the church is a lot of, the farmer's market has a lot of new construction around it, residential, a whole lot. So, which is near the church.
What would you guys like to do?
Oh, you want,
Sure.
your proposition was both of them? Is that what you
I
said?
said keep both.
You want to do both? Is that-
I advocate for both, but
How do you? This is.
Votes, what did they do? How did they do?
This will be for the high turnout model.
I think
Do we
both.
have the numbers? Do we have,
To use both centers for the high turnout model?
Yeah.
excuse me, do we have the numbers for the last election? What the numbers were?
This is a new location.
Both of them were new locations.
Sorry, no, Johnson Central Library in the last November election saw 545 people, but the First Presbyterian Church of Dallas has never been used.
Never been used, first
Yeah,
time.
by the elections department.
That's an amazing location though.
It is.
And you're right, there are a lot of apartment
I'm
buildings,
both.
condominiums. Have we heard from Philly? That's an amazing location.
I say both.
No,
We have Billy on mic.
I don't. I don't believe so.
Carl, did you have a comment?
I live literally 50 steps away from both of those locations. My house is in the middle. I think it's too close. We have El Centro downtown. We have Johnson Library. We just added St. Paul, which is on the other end of downtown. That's a lot of locations for someone. And then we have George Island Courthouse. If you live downtown, if you work downtown, there's probably 5 locations you could either walk or drive to. I just want to throw that out.
Thank you.
So that's your preference. Status quo, keep Judge Johnson or switch to the other location or have both?
Defer to the city secretary and then, but I would say keep the library, but defer to.
Oh, sure.
Secretary.
So would you like to, if we could get it home early in the morning, say status quo unless she says otherwise?
Yes.
Okay.
And status quo is the library, right?
It's to keep the library, right?
Yeah.
The only benefit to that church is that they particularly target working with the homeless.
They sure do.
That's the benefit.
And I was gonna say that, I was gonna mention that some people may not want to vote at the library because we do know that there's a homeless population in that area. But around the Presbyterian church, they may feel more comfortable and more safer in that environment, even though they work with the homeless, but there's some people may feel more comfortable there. So I think having the option.
I will pass that information on to Billy from you guys. And we'll let her decide. Okay. Next.
Its location is Pilgrim Rest. This location was recommended by, like, say, a community member or a poll worker that works the elections.
That's on Washington, right? Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church.
Missionary Baptist Church.
It's on Washington.
What are the, so Pilgrim Rest is the green circle?
No, ma'am. Pilgrim Rest is
The green circle.
Oh,
That green circle?
no, it's blue on, it's blue. It may appear.
Okay.
On the.
So the closest one is, what is that center right next to? Is that Rosen Homes?
Yes.
I have Ignite to the north, Exall Park Recreation to the south, and then over here is the Booker T. Washington, which we just decided would be replaced by St. Paul.
I can't believe they don't have, I would vote to add it on. Because you have those projects right there, Rosen Home, right there, projects.
They just built.
And without that, church being there as a voting center, they have to get over to Exall Park. And while it doesn't seem like it's a far distance for you, it's far when you're walking it maybe. And they may feel impressed, and everyone feels comfortable with Pilgrim Rest in that neighborhood.
Tons of new apartments.
Yes.
And yeah, as to that, it looks like it's right off of a bus stop, so.
It is.
Yeah.
Be a terrific location.
So. Vote to
To add it,
add Pilgrim Rest.
absolutely.
So it's been suggested that we add
For the high turnout model.
high turnout model. Is there anybody who has some concerns about that? Right. Next.
Okay, the next location is the Chapel of the Cross. This location was identified by a voting site in an attempt to provide coverage for the uptown. So that's the best that we could do.
So I was a little uncomfortable with this one because that's the right one. Back up. Where's the? That was, I'm thinking about the one for early voting.
Okay. This location just gave us the okay today, and we reached out and surveyed the location. The survey score is a 96.7. Efficiencies?
It would provide coverage for a block away from Milam. This was sourced by voting sites.
What was the reason?
Network coverage
Yeah.
for uptown areas.
What was the deficiency? Did you do? Did somebody say it?
Marley, you have your.
I am noticing a pretty significant number of people voted in 2022, the location directly south of that 1,200 even.
Yep.
That's a pretty busy day.
Yes. Very busy.
That's really good. So it could take some stress off of that.
We're still looking for what impacted the survey score. Right. We're looking for what impacted the survey score, but they're having a hard time pulling that one up right now.
We can come back to that. What is the next location?
Okay, so the next location. Actually, I don't know if we should discuss both at the same time because, Edward Curie. So we originally approved Edward Carey with the low turnout model. And we found that the location was not available, so we changed the status. However, we received information from Dallas ISD that the location was rebuilt and they have changed the name. So the location is Walnut Hill Elementary Academy, which is on it's the exact same address as Edward Carey.
So we're bringing it up right now because Edward Carey was approved in the low turnout model, but we then told you that it was unavailable. We were corrected by the ISD, told that it was available and that it has had a name change. Edward Carey is now called Walnut Hill International Academy. While we were in discussion with the ISD, they brought up the Thomas Jefferson High School, which is on the same block on the opposite side. They offered that as another potential vote center, either or. So we are bringing it to you.
They want to decide between the two.
Yes, they would like us to decide between the two, not both. So,
I would recommend Thomas Jefferson because you have high school students that can vote there.
I concur.
okay, so we will take the Thomas Jefferson High School with the understanding that the Walnut Hill Recreation Center just on the road will also be in the High Turnout Model.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other comments?
So we found that the pathway is not lighted. The pathway into the vote center is not lighted and you can't see the voting room from the entrance. There is like floodlights outdoors, so the light can carry.
You're talking about the church again, correct?
I apologize. Yes, I jumped back to, Pilgrim Rest. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
That was the comments again about Pilgrim Rest. Pilgrim Rest. She said about Pilgrim Rest. So where these guys sit? They haven't got everything.
That's a good location.
I think it's great.
You have great lighting. They found their way.
Yeah. So Chapel Lacrosse.
Chapel Cross, okay.
So, it was, just to go over that really quickly again. It was mentioned that the pathway is not lit and you can't see the voting room from the entrance. But there is outdoor lighting. So
there are floodlights, but there aren't lights directly over the sidewalk. There are floodlights in the parking lot. And you are able to see the voting room from the entrance.
so that's what resulted in lower
I mean,
So 96 is a low score either.
Yeah, it's not low.
Yes. I mean, for taxes that are acceptable,
score, I
right?
think. I do too.
What's your thoughts?
I'm concerned about no lighting on the walkway and not being able to see the vote center. I mean, those are a couple, you can't see the voting center.
We're only with just seven.
Well, you know, it gets darker, yeah.
So that.
Dark in the morning, dark in the night.
Dark in the morning, dark in-
We are pretty strict about it. If it's just around the corner, even if it's that first door around the corner, we say you can't see it from the entrance of the facility.
Okay.
So I didn't do the survey, I'm not familiar with it, but, yeah, we are pretty strict about it. If you can't see the room that people will be voting in, we say, oh, you're docked a couple of points.
And keep in mind, some of that is something we take for information to mitigate, right? If we have someone identifying the room from the entrance, we will supply more signage. and things like that. So there's some mitigation on.
Can't see my room. I have to put it behind.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
They give me.
And that's what we,
From my perspective, if there was a location with 150 people a couple blocks away, I'd say we're fine. The location directly south of there, they had 1,250 people, which could equate to lines, which heat presses turn on. Sure. So that's real high line.
I say go.
and that's for the high turnout model,
So if you
correct?
throw a high turnout model.
Yes.
Yes.
Phillips, you're a yes.
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 And have that added to the high turnout model.
Yes.
Recommend that.
So travel across, be included in the high turnout model.
Okay. About the lighting situation.
Sound good to me, Glenn. We can get some of those little stakes, you know, put them in the ground.
Good idea. 'Cause it's
We'll
decorative.
fix it.
It's solar
Pretty.
lighting.
There you go. That's what I was saying. Solar lights, yeah.
Costco, here we
Exactly, exactly.
So I think, you had mentioned conversation about the church at Booker T. Washington. Is that the next thing to bring up?
Thank you. Yes, so going back to St. Paul, we addressed that for early voting. Now it comes back up because it is right across the street from an already approved low turnout, and high turnout location called the Booker T. Washington High School. Booker T. Washington reportedly uses the St. Paul United Methodist Church for overflow parking during, elections, so, we're practically using it a little bit. But since we're tentatively accepting it as an early voting site, do we need another site across the street, or would we
No.
like to, not select Booker T. Washington or a low turnout or a high turnout? Would we like to remove it from the low turnout and high turnout list?
Church.
So keep the church.
So
say keep the
parking,
church.
they were using the St. Paul parking.
Just to keep the church.
Okay, so we will keep the church, and remove Booker T. Washington from the low turnout and high turnout.
Is Booker T already a location?
It was a location, but now we want to have an early voting location. And so St. Paul, I think this group previously thought St. Paul United Methodist was better for both early voting and election day. It was the better of the two locations.
Yes.
Recommendation, one or the other.
Yeah, and I think that's the direction I think we're heading is go with St. Paul United Methodist
Yeah.
for both early voting and
And
election.
election day.
Okay.
And that would be low turnout and high turnout model.
Yes.
Okay, so to confirm the amount for the number of locations for the high turnout model, there would be 23 added as of now for the high turnout model, which brings the total of 229.
If we remove Booker T, so should not be the same. Right, we use sample instead of Booker T.
It was a replacement though, because we replaced the 1-for-1 in the low turnout model and in the high turnout model. For the low turnout model, let's leave 206 because we removed one.
Okay, does that wrap up Dallas?
So to repeat, for Dallas, the city of Dallas, there was 206 under low turnout model. We added 23 for the high turnout model for a total of 229. Any comments, thoughts, questions about that? Okay. So
Total for high turnout.
I don't know, we're breaking it.
Okay, sorry.
We got two little teeny cities in the middle of Dallas. Okay.
We just.
So the town of Highland Park has not had an early voting site. And we have not found one. The University Park has historically had the University Park UMC. We're looking to keep with that. So there would be no change to the University Park and no change to the Highland Park for an early voting plan. Does that sound okay? Okay, let's move on to low turnout. So in a low turnout.
Is that thing still on?
Yeah.
It appears that we would have 5 locations in University Park for a low turnout
Winning
model election. All of these 5 locations that are, they would be not changed. They would be not changed from the low turnout model that we approved in March.
Somebody's not on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't see it. Oh, okay.
And these 2 in Highland Park would also not be changes from the low turnout model approved in March. So we can move on to the high turnout model unless there is, someone feels there is needed coverage for a low turnout model. Okay. So to flex up for a high turnout model, neither of these cities would see additional vote centers. They will have the same for University Park, 5 election day vote centers in a low turnout model and 5 election day vote centers in a high turnout model. The town of Highland Park will have 2 election day vote centers and in a low turnout and 2 election day vote centers in a high turnout.
That should be plenty.
That should be plenty.
They
Okay.
don't live there. They don't. Yeah.
So that sounds good to everyone. In a high turnout, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So we're done.
Just a quick question. I can't see it on the list. Is the Hughes Trigg Student Center at SMU
Yeah.
going to be considered a Trigg is this?
Yes. Hughes Trigg is this, sorry. Yes, Hughes Trigg is right here. Also. Dire.
Thank you.
Look at that. Oh, there's one more. And Branch. Wanted to speak about that.
Okay, so Sand Branch location, we previously discussed. This location, would provide coverage in the
Southeast corner
southeast corner
of the county.
of the county.
Yes, ma'am.
So to refresh everyone's memories, this was an extremely low populated
Yes.
area where there's very few facilities.
0.
Anything.
But there's also, yeah, very little anything, but
Yes.
there was brought up, there was a need for a polling place. So we looked for a polling place and what did we find?
So Mount Zion MBC of Sand Branch. We have previously discussed this location as it scored fairly low on the survey score. However, it was discussed that the committee would make some adjustments so that this location can be approved to become an election day site. So just checking in.
And there are, and also we talked to some folks that specialize in taking a location like this, for instance, where you have a big need in a deficient location, to try to do what you can for a temporary basis, to try to make it up to speed. So if you choose to use that location regardless of its ADA status, we can try to fix it up to the best of our ability.
I just want to mention that I did send a second location to Michael this evening. That's in Sandbridge. Now, bear in mind, the addresses are going to show Seagoville because they do not have a post office. So their addresses show Seagoville, but they actually do live in Sandbridge. And there's a second church that's on Beltline Road that is really in the same condition. So you've got an option.
We got the same problem with the ADA.
Yeah.
So there's always that balance between servicing voters, all voters, and then making sure that we're taking care of our ADA requirements. So, go ahead, Diane.
Bonnie and I emailed about finding volunteers to help create a ramp or whatever it is that's needed, so that the building can be safely accessed. And I think we can work on that some more, depending on, since both of them have a situation, we just figure out which one
And the best of the two.
and get our volunteers in order.
So what's your preference?
Great, good to know. Can we accept this location and kind of on a tentative until we get out there and look at the other one? I don't know. Have time, really.
I think, keep in mind, what you're doing is you're making a recommendation to Commissioners Court. Commissioners Court is going to accept that recommendation or modify it. And so, here's the other thing to keep in mind. It's not uncommon. I mean, once these recommendations and after Commissioners Court gavels something down, things change all the time. I mean, things drop, things get added.
Yeah, but.
So, I mean, if it, I guess what I can suggest is to improve it. It ends up being that we can't fix it and we feel like it's putting the county or one of the cities in some legal jeopardy, and we don't use it. But we do the best we can to make it work.
Okay,
I think we can live with that.
Yeah.
Too.
I think so. Thank you.
So I think that wraps up all the individual locations. So I'm just gonna ask my team, are we comfortable with our list? Are we solid? Are we ready to vote? We want to take 3 votes. One is to approve all the early voting locations as they were talked about tonight. The second vote will be to modify the low turnout model as we talked about tonight. And finally, will be to approve the high turnout model as we talked about tonight. So is that my team ready with that? We're comfortable with the list, we're gonna follow this, we're good to go?
Can I make some? So we've got quite a few locations that are, the numbers are wrong. And we've got one number on one location on one page and a different number. MLK Center. Is it 1 or is it 10?
It shows early voting is like a 1 and it shows the day of is it 10.
That's correct. The poll codes are, they used to be something when we were precinct based. That's why some of them started 3, 4, 1, 5, whatever. But after we moved to a vote center model and we started using new locations, we started from 0001.
But if it's one location, it's only gonna be like 0010 is gonna be MLK, and it's either gonna have an E or a V or both, right?
That's how it would have responded in the vote, in the precinct model, because it would have meant. But when we started just adding places, we added way more election day locations than we did early voting. So election day went 001, then suddenly 2 was taken, 3 was taken, 4 was taken. And early voting, we were only at 0003. When for election day, our next unique code would have been 00020.
Okay, just for an example, Charlie Taylor Rec Center.
Yes,
E.
Yes.
0019.
yes.
C. 4512.
Yeah, there's no
I-
relationship between those two numbers, I think.
There, we've got all of our early vote locations are now also low turnout and high turnout. Why can't they have one number?
Because so those unique poll codes are specific to our election management system. They're just unique numbers. They aren't supposed to stand for anything else. It's just a unique number to code that location.
But they do stand for something. Because that's how we,
Not in our election management
your
system.
election management, but you guys aren't the only one who are doing this. We got other people doing this too. And
We understand. I'll just tell you this. Keep in mind that when we redistricted.
Yeah.
Census was late, legislature was late. Commissioner's court was late. We were left holding the bag and had like weeks to do redistricting. And so we contemplated renumbering. Way too much work, way too complex. So the numbers are just that. They're random numbers that have no meaning other than their unique identifier.
I will also add that we are unable to replace the names because in our election management system, turnout is tied to that vote center number. So if we erase that vote center, like we delete it off of the list because the location is permanently unavailable, we have a blank name and turnout. So like in March 2019, blank received 38 votes.
We
And
use all
that
of our
was,
statistics.
yeah,
Historic statistics.
so
So having said that,
Let's vote.
having said that, let's vote. Early voting. You ready to go?
This is gonna be on the thing.
And I think we should probably start with a voice vote. If we feel in there's any controversy, we'll move to a
That makes sense.
computer generated vote.
Their poll up.
Just voice and then voice. Then we can go individually and vote.
So, in favor,
Right.
yes, in favor of the early voting sites?
Let's,
Let's do it there.
is there a motion to approve the early voting site as?
I
Been
second.
moved and seconded that the early voting sites as discussed today and which appear in our list shall be approved. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed to the motion, same sign. Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Now we're gonna go to the low turnout model, right?
Yes.
There was a few modifications to the low turnout model. And I'm gonna let Jayla.
You just did it once.
We're
I move to approve with the amendments made.
Any discussion on the low turnout model?
No, I made the motion.
For the
I'll
motion.
second.
Okay, I need a second. Second the motion, okay. All right, now all in favor?
Yeah.
Oh, any discussion? I said in reverse order.
That's okay.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Just beat you to it.
Same sign.
or no, either one.
Any opposed? Okay, great.
Motion carried.
Motion carried
There you go.
unanimously.
You could do. Motion carried.
Yeah, one more.
Post it up in your training.
You got this. You got this. You can do it.
Okay, so a motion, to vote on the recommended high turnout model. Yeah,
I'll make a motion.
okay, anyone second that motion? Okay,
It's been moved and seconded. In a discussion.
moved in second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Yeah.
So that is our work for now. The last thing on our agenda was that we want this group to be a regular part of what we do. And so after the 2024 cycle, yeah, election cycle, we should meet again in 2025. As the county continues to grow and change, and so we want to continue to grow also. So we will be inviting you guys back again in 2025. In the meantime, thank you so much. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you. Dedicated. Really great participation. We have a question. This goes to court next Tuesday. And you are welcome to come down and speak if you like. I will be presenting your recommendations, but you're welcome to chime in if you like. 9 o'clock.
I'm gonna go. I'm going.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you. Take care.
But I'm not gonna speak. I'm going to.
You'll speak. On the website, under our summary materials, we will be providing a clean sheet of the final, of the decisions made here tonight. We'll be providing a clean sheet. So to refresh everybody's memory, that's dallascountyvotes.org. Scrolling down to the community meeting icon, and then that's one.
Would it be possible to email us when that's up and also meeting information in there about sport?
Members will definitely get an email. This is for the public online, anyone. Yeah, you will be here to.